Hello again as we gather together in the Spirit. We're moving into Memorial Day week already, and Memorial Day weekend, Memorial Day on Monday. I know some of the normal Memorial Day celebrations have already been canceled, but we can still celebrate and use that as a day to remember on our own. However we might choose to do that, and use that as a time to remember those who have gone before us. We use that especially as a time to remember those who have gone before us who have been in the military. Our readings for this coming Sunday come from the Gospel of John again, and from 1 Peter and from Acts, but it's a psalm that I'd like to focus on, and just two verses of the psalm today. Psalm 68. And here it describes God. God is the father of orphans, the protector of widows. God is in his holy habitation. God gives the desolate a home to live in. He leads out the prisoner to prosperity. That's that little verse there right at the end of verse 6. He leads out the prisoner to prosperity. Reminded me of a book that I think I listened to it on tape when I was commuting for something for a while. And so I'm not going to claim that I've read this book, but I think I listened to it on tape. It was by Ben Steele. He was a veteran who lived in Montana, passed away here about 10, 12 years ago, and is remembered for the book that he wrote about his time as a prisoner of war during World War II. He was part of the Bataan Death March, survived the forced labor camps after that, and was able to come home. And again, God let him out from being a prisoner of war in atrocious conditions to prosperity, to being an art teacher for the University of Montana, and being able to share his story in his book, Tears in the Darkness, the story of the Bataan Death March. And the new thing that I learned from that, I'd heard about this Bataan Death March before and probably seen different things about it as it portrayed in different movies. But in his book, he either just reminded me of something I'd forgot or taught me something new. And I'd always wondered why was this Bataan Death March so devastating to those young men who were forced on that march. And I thought, they're young, they're in probably the best shape they've ever been, being part of the military at that time. What made it so devastating and difficult? Well, what I learned was they weren't in the best shape ever. They had been on starvation rations, being isolated on that island for months, and their physical condition had dropped to dire situations. And then, at that point, when they are finally captured and taken prisoner by the Japanese, they're then forced on this 50 or 60 mile march, and then forced after that into horrendous conditions of prisoner of war work camps, forced labor, all of those things. Those who survived were few. And Ben Steele tells his story of survival. Why is that important to know? Why is it important to remember that, to go back to those things? Well, when we're trying to live out this COVID-19, part of what will become history a decade from now, we have to go back to our own history sometimes, don't we? And realize all the other difficult times that we might have personally been able to overcome a situation like this, or our nation has overcome a situation like this. And we've heard a lot about the flu pandemic in the early 1900s and how devastating that was, but we were able to overcome that as a nation. We hear about our economics, and we've been through different times just like this before as a nation, and we've overcome those things. It is that history sometimes that gives us the opportunity, the ability to think past the moment that we're in and think into the future. So we use that history as a way to walk into the future with faith and hope, knowing that God is with us. So as we prepare to celebrate Memorial Day, If there are those that you know who are in the military now, it's an opportunity to thank them. It's an opportunity to remember those who have died either in battle or other ways that they have succumbed to death as a military person, or those who are still surviving. And to give them this time, this day, to remember who they are and what they did for our nation. But maybe also to take some time to learn something new. Learn something new about the wars that our nation is in and the enemies that we have overcome. I hope this finds you safe and healthy, and as you enjoy this week and enjoy this weekend. Amen.